everyone, and welcome to Parent Quick Smart's Grade K topic or Unit 10. So the topic that we're covering today in this video is identify and describe three-dimensional shapes. Throughout this unit, we're going to be covering the connection between two- and three-dimensional shapes. Since birth, children have explored shapes in a three-dimensional world. So in this chapter, we're going to widen and deepen their understanding as they learn the names of shapes, sort them according to their properties, and then compare them to two-dimensional or flat shapes. You're probably thinking, well, what will my child be learning and how does it connect to previous learning that they've already experienced in kindergarten? Two-dimensional shapes were already covered earlier in the year, which was Unit 5. Well, now we're in Unit 10, and we're going to build upon that two-dimensional figure knowledge and extend it to three-dimensional figures. The rest of this video is going to share with you what exactly your child will be learning in this unit and how you can support their learning at home. So what do the kindergarten state standards say? That students will correctly name a figure regardless of its position or size. And that students will describe objects in their environment based on positional words, such as above, below, beside, in front of, behind, and next to. And that's something that in everyday life we can work with our children. In the car, at home, setting the table, putting clothes away. Anything that regards positional words would be a great opportunity to help students within this unit. Identify two-dimensional shapes as flat and three-dimensional shapes as solid. And lastly, analyze, compose, and create shapes based on their parts or attributes, such as faces, edges, vertices, and so on. The kindergarten students will be learning how to identify and describe some of the following three-dimensional figures. So I wanted to share some of those with you, so that way when you go to help your child at home, you know the names of some of these popular three-dimensional figures. It includes a cone, sphere, cylinder, cube, prisms, including rectangular prisms and triangular prisms. I wanted to make sure that we had several examples of that. And then we have pyramids, such as triangular pyramid and square pyramid. Now notice that all of these are, right side up or in a specific orientation. Just like I had mentioned in an earlier slide, we want to make sure that we are showing these three-dimensional figures in several representations in different sizes as well. I wanted to take a minute and share with you some of the additional vocabulary that your child will experience during this unit. Some of these words you may have heard before, some of them may be completely unfamiliar to you. I'm going to be taking a red marker and highlighting the portions of the shape to show you exactly the part of the shape that the vocabulary word is referencing. Let's go ahead and start with the left side with the triangular prism. Face is actually any of the flat surfaces of the figure. So we have a face there with the triangle. We also have a face here with the rectangle. A common misconception that students will have is when you show them a picture of a three-dimensional figure, for example, this picture here, they might think that this figure only has two faces. However, it actually has five because there's another triangle on the back side, and then there are two more rectangles on the side and bottom. So that's just kind of a word of caution when working with your child with three-dimensional shapes, is that you want them to have the physical model with them so that way they can point or touch the sides. Let's go ahead and move on to edges. So the top here we have a rectangular pyramid or a rectangular prism, and edges are where any of those faces come together and meet. So I'm highlighting here the edges. So here we have 4 edges and then there are some more. And just like that other picture I was telling you, some students might have a hard time being able to count the edges if they're just looking at a picture. However, if they have a physical model, they're able to run their finger along the edges to tell the difference between a face and an edge, because an edge is where those two flat surfaces meet. Let's go ahead and move down to vertex or vertices. Vertex is actually referencing one, and then vertices is plural, meaning more than one. And a vertex or vertices are where we have those edges that come together at a point. So you can see here I'm kind of dotting the vertices that are shown. And it looks like, based on the picture, that there are 7 vertices. However, there's actually one more vertex, and it's kind of right in the back, probably around right there. So a vertex or vertices are where edges come together and meet at a point. Now, one last vocabulary word is apex. Students may or may not encounter this vocabulary word, but an apex is where a curved surface comes together at a point. So in this case, an apex of a cone is right there. So hopefully these diagrams helped you better understand some of the vocabulary words that your child will be experiencing during this unit. You can challenge your child to identify and name some three-dimensional shapes in the real world. And here are some examples. We have a pot, and you can tell that that's very cylinder-like. We have a party hat, which is very similar to a cone. We have marbles for a sphere. We have blocks for cubes. We have a tent for a square pyramid, a Toblerone candy bar for a triangular prism, and then we have a deck of playing cards for a rectangular prism. So these are just a few examples. It would be a good idea to challenge your child at home to identify and name some three-dimensional objects in the real world. Some more ways to help at home is the discovery of whether three-dimensional shapes stack, roll, or slide. This is a part of the kindergarten standards, and they will have some exposure to this within the classroom. However, we're able to also support this at home. Some example questions you can ask are, can a cylinder roll? Absolutely. And you see in the bottom right-hand corner here, you see a child that has a little makeshift ramp that they are testing whether some of the three-dimensional figures that they have are able to roll or slide. So right now that child is testing out a sphere, and they're able to see that when they put the sphere at the very top of their ramp and they let go, that sphere will roll down that ramp. So we know that a cylinder would end up doing the same thing. So would a square pyramid roll? Not quite, because it doesn't have that round surface. But can it slide? Absolutely. You can slide a square pyramid. You can put it down on its base, which is a square, and then you can push it and it would slide. So I also want to share with you what I have pictured here, a misconception that I just want to make sure that we clear up as we're helping our children at home. Can a cube stack on top of a cone? Well, let's try it out. It cannot. You're right. So we have to watch out that when we are, exposing our children to some of these three-dimensional shapes, that some can stack on top of others and some cannot. So let's reverse the order. Can a cone then stack on top of a cube? Let's check it out. It sure can. We can let go of the cone and it would stay put. Where on the other side, if we had the cone stacked on top of if we had the cube stacked on top of the cone, if we let go of that cube, it would fall. It would not balance. We cannot stack it on top. So have your children use their knowledge of attributes of three-dimensional shapes in order to be able to explain to you whether certain shapes can stack, roll, or slide. Allowing your child to play with wood or foam three-dimensional blocks can also help your child become familiar with shapes, three-dimensional shapes, and explore some of those attributes. So prompt your child with some questions while they're playing with these. For example, show me the square pyramid. So based on the attributes, how do you know that that block is a square pyramid? Have them list out the defining attributes of that shape in order to have them correctly name some of these three-dimensional shapes. These blocks are located at toy store. They can easily be made as well. I hope that you found this parent video helpful as your child digs into Unit 10, the exploration of three-dimensional shapes. As a reminder, keep in communication with your child's teacher. Also, access thinkcentral.com for additional support and activities, or also elementarymath.mysdhc.org for additional information as well.